So, welcome to Green Solutions of Florida. It's going to be a fun week. We got Monday through Thursday that we're going to be doing as training here, and then on Friday the sales reps are coming in. We're going to have a boot camp over at the Hilton where you'll be staying. So it's going to be a big week. For some people, this is very much a life-changing experience. It's hard for me to tell. Sometimes everybody in the class comes out and does real well. Sometimes, people allow things to get in the way. I call it bugs on the windshield. And I kind of went through what the numbers were going to be like in the beginning as far as the way appointments are set. And it seems one of the things that affects people in the early part of the process is having some unreasonable expectations. We try to set good expectations with our customers, so that they realize, when we're going to be there, what we're going to be doing. And I want to set some reasonable expectations with you guys. You're going to get 20 appointments in a week, and they're going to be set. And I want you to spend a little time when we're not in here. Take a peek in that room. Walk into that room. There's an office, another doorway, past that one, where the managers are. Step in there, kind of, get to know them a little bit, because this is the lifeblood of our business. These appointments are what gets us where we're going. Now, the way these appointments are set is they call them up, they make sure that they're the homeowner, and then, they say there are incentives out there that can help you save 20 to 50% off your power bill without taking any money out of your pocket or affecting your budget. Now, the way we determine what's going to help you is we'll come out and do an energy survey, energy review, and a 14-point inspection. And with that, we're able to just show you some things that you can do in your home and some things that, you could get a contractor to do. But basically, once that date and time are set, then one of our confirmers gets on the phone. They make sure that the date and time are good, that the address is correct, that all decision makers are going to be there, and the home is not for sale and loan modification or foreclosure. Been in this business at all, the things that we're heading off right there are big roadblocks to making money. You're never going to see those appointments. And then we're going to go to Google, and we're going to look at the home. We're going to make sure it fits our criteria for a home that we want to send you to. It's going to have enough square footage, and it's going to have some of the right ingredients before we're going to even select that house. It's going to have to be of the proper value. And then it's going to go over to property appraiser, where we're going to look at the home, make sure it's in their name, make sure there are no liens on the property, and make sure that it's not heirs property or a bunch of people involved. Once again, these are all things we're doing behind the scenes that you never see happen. And then if it's set today for tomorrow, someone's going to listen to that call. This is a voice over IP phone room with a predictive dialer. So they dial thousands of calls a day. So they're going to, every call recorded, goes inside or out from that office. And so with that in mind, they listen to make sure all the talking points were made and that the confirmations were good. Now, if it's set today for Wednesday, someone's going to call them tomorrow. They're going to confirm that the date and time are still good, that all decision makers are going to be there. And once they've done that, someone listens to the call at that point. They only listen to confirmed appointments. As you might imagine, that's got to be a grueling job. And Caesar's the one that does it, so I thank him all the time, because he's the last stand in making sure that this is a good appointment that we want to be put out there. Now, but we're going to use 20 as an average number. And we're going to get into about 60% of those. Now, that's 12. Now, there are some people, like several people from that report, that get in 70 to 75%. And then there's some people that only get in 50%. That has something to do with the individual. Just pre-qualifying before you even get up to the door. And so you kind of create, instead of meeting them with a smile, you meet them with a grimace, because you're like, oh man, you sent me to this house. And it's one of 20 So if you do everything you can to get in those doors, you're gonna have a much better experience. You're gonna be on this side of the spectrum instead of this side of the spectrum. Now, typically, we're going to present somewhere between 6, 8 to 10, and then sometimes there's a plus on this side and sometimes there's a minus on that side, but we look to every representative to have 8 prices a week on the table. If you do, you're gonna sell somewhere between 3 and 5. But if you go below this number for prices on the table, the law of averages can be very unkind and you can end up with no deals. And so, and we're not gonna get a price on the table in every home we walk into, obviously. Sometimes the husband took off a half hour, they didn't know how long it was gonna take. Somebody gets called into work, someone gets sick, you know, the husband said it, the wife doesn't want to participate. I mean, there's a number of reasons why it doesn't happen, and that's all bugs on the windshield. It really doesn't matter. What does matter is getting in and getting the price on the table, and getting 2 to 4 deals, where our average sale right now is $14,000. You know, so we pay 10% commission, so that's $1,400 per sale on an average. So you're not really believing that big yet, and you're thinking, well, you know, I got to sell it cheaper. I mean, everything we do has savings associated with it. So whether it's a $10,000 deal or $50,000 deal, you know, one's going to be maybe a 30 or 40% savings, and one's going to be a 90 to 95% savings. The amount coming out of their pocket never changes. It's 0. Virtually every time that we do this presentation, if we do it right, there's not going to be any money ever coming out of their pocket. It's all going to be caught up in the money they're already spending with the power company. They have a built-in bill already. We know Duke Energy is one of the largest power companies in the world, actually, second to Edison Electric out of California. They cover a lot of turf and have millions of customers. Our average bill in the state of Florida is $200. You can kind of use that as an average because of the billions of customers they have. You know, so $1,400, and we get 75% of our deals that are sold installed. These numbers have pretty much run true for the last 11 years. The numbers don't lie. Sometimes people do. Now you can better the numbers. You know, if you're on this side of the equation and you're getting in the door 75% of the time, the chances of getting 8 to 10 to 12 prices on the table are going to be a lot better than if you're over here and you're only getting in 10 of them. It'd be hard to get 8 prices on the table if you only get into 10 homes. You know, we set our appointments 9-11-135 or 11-1357. Those are the 2 shifts that are available. We work every other Saturday, 9, 11, and 1. And so we want you to make good money. We also want you to have some time to enjoy it. So in this industry, which is in-home sales, rarely do you ever have a Saturday off at all. If you want time off, give us a 72-hour notice. That's not an automatic approval, but that's when to ask. And we know life happens, cars break, things happen. When you're not working, when you're not belly to belly and toe to toe, eye to eye with someone, you're unemployed. And so if you allow a broken car to keep you from going to work, it's costing you money. The first 2 parts of the presentation are a survey where we're going to go through 15 questions, and we're going to gather information about them, about their household, about some of their habits, and we're going to find out about them. One of the areas that we do that when we're talking about the home, we ask, well, how long do y'all plan on living here? And many of them will say, oh, we don't have any plans on leaving. Some will say 3 to 5 years. It doesn't matter. But right at that point, we say, well, are you all from Florida? If it hadn't already come up. And most people are not going to say yes to that. I mean, every now and then you will have one, but typically if he's married to someone, she's not from Florida. But usually they're going to be from out of state. When you go, well, you okay?
Yeah, muscle cramp.
I can see it on the face. Now he's going to say, I'm from New York and she's from North Dakota. And you say, well, how on earth does New York and North Dakota get together and end up in Florida? And then you let them talk. And then after they've talked, then you talk. It's called rapport, building rapport and having a conversation. And then we go through the first 12 pages of our book, and then we go out and we use this to do pass-fail. We're gonna look at different aspects of their home, and we're gonna pass and fail them. And then we come back and do the total waste and replacement cost. And it's kind of like the first price shield they're gonna see. And then we put this down and we go into the book and we do energy crisis, why is my bill so high? And then depending on what we saw in the home, we're gonna present certain products. Whether it's our attic package, or whether it's our solar hot water package, or hybrid hot water package, or a combination of the two. Those are like bronze, silver, gold. And then we go from there to our price sheet, and we give them our first price. And then we say, but that's not why I'm here. They actually wanted me to come out and get this information from you. And then we have them fill this out, and then that qualifies them for the next part of our presentation, which is our word of mouth advertising program. Every one call closed has to have a call to action. This is our call to action. And then once they qualify for the advertising program, we go back to our price sheet and we put our prices over here. And this is when we ask them the question, does it make more sense to waste or invest? And they say it makes more sense to invest. Can you write me a check for that, And then when they give me the yes, and it's always going to be yes, not it depends on your number, not maybe. We're going to get an emphatic yes before we turn this page over. We teach you how to do that. What you'll hear us talk about a lot on the calls is that we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. It starts with marketing over there, then we get the appointment and we get out there and we go in and we sell it. And then Melissa steps into it because she's going to handle the financing. And then it goes off to Jared, who's our installation manager. And then it goes, and then he gets it installed, and then Melissa comes back into the formula and signs the deal out. And 3 days later, we have money in the bank. And but we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. And what's most important for us is to learn the presentation and do it to the best of our ability each time. As you'll see, we're working with props. And so when we are using a presentation book, we'll have this in front of us, and then we'll have the first 2 pages of our presentation up front, and then in the back, we'll have paperwork in the back, and then we'll have the next 3 pieces in the back. And so when you go into each home, if you're carrying a presentation book, you have to reload depending on how many sheets you used while you were in the presentation. And then we knock on the door kind of like a cop, a firm knock, so that the decision maker in the home will come to the door. And most of the time it's a man, but every now and then it's the woman. She's wearing the pants. And then we just announce ourselves. My name's Dale. I'm with Green Solutions of Florida. Just came in to do your energy review. And we call it like the chicken scratch. You're kind of standing there at the door, wiping your feet, looking to get in. They give you any kind of resistance, then you just say, why are you here? Are you selling anything? Well, how could I sell anything if I don't even know you have a problem or a need? We're here to do an energy survey and energy review. Do you sell anything? Well, our company does, but that's not why they sent me out here. I'm in advertising and promotions. I'm not in the sales department. That kind of gets into our table speech. But we're handling whatever we can. Now I'm going to give you a copy of the presentation they use next door and the rebuttals they use to set the appointment. If you use that to try to get your presentation on, you probably have a little bit better chance of getting it done, other than trying to use some of your best thinking or even going into our table speech while you're still outside the door. And so, use the same rebuttals they use over there. If that doesn't work, then you can go into your table speech. Well, in fact, the next part of our process is to do an inspection. Now, if you don't take anything else out of this conversation, Graham, remember that energy equals money, and it's your money. Now, we're gonna go take a look at your attic. Do you have an attic pull down, or do you have a?
I do have a pull down.
You have a pull down? Okay. The attic accesses are often the most overlooked source of energy loss in a home. Wood only has an R value of 0.5, and so it's not really slowing the heat traffic down very much. Heat travels, through the wood, through the attic door, and into your home. Remember, heat always going to cold. According to the United States Department of Energy, the average loss on an annual basis is around $20 due to improper insulation and around the attic entrance and beyond. So we're going to take a look at that. We're also going to take a look at the type of insulation do you have. Do you have the pink stuff? Do you have the mineral wool, or do you have the cellulose? Now, what a lot of companies are doing now is they're blowing the cellulose in. A lot of it is very environmentally friendly. Now, this is what's called a floor joist, and they are 2 by 6s or 1 3/4 by 5.5. And so typically insulation is supposed to be 12.5 inches to get to R38. And you see there's a ruler right here, and they're bringing the insulation up to that level. If you can see below these, that means there's less than 5 inches of insulation in that attic. And so many times when a home is bought, or 4 or 5 years earlier or 15 years earlier, then maybe it had good insulation, but after a while, the insulation just kind of breaks down. Now, we used to be a very complicated formula for determining based on the region, how much insulation was needed. That was changed in 2012, and literally what that administration did is they just centralized the insulation at R38. And so there's 12.5 inches of insulation, and in some cases, someone only needs a top off, and in some cases what they need is, to bring it up the entire 12 inches if needed. Now, we're also going to take a look at your air duct insulation. Now, the home's air ducts carry heated air or cooled air, but cooled air to every room. Unfortunately, many duct systems are improperly insulated, and when the ducts that are installed, in the attic space, and when you got all that temperatures hitting it, it's going to heat up the air, and typically, your coldest place is going to be closest to your air handler, and then from there moving away, the temperatures get warmer and warmer and warmer, but I'll check those for you just to see what's happening exactly. We're also going to look at attic ventilation. It's a huge problem in the state of Florida because of the mold and mildew, but this is what's called a ridgeline vent, and this is a gable vent. And the gables, sometimes they have an electric fan in there, and so we ask people, are you using electricity to save electricity? Is it saving you more than it's costing you, or costing you more than it's saving you? And sometimes you can figure those things out with a formula, but many times it really doesn't matter, because we know that if it's not a solar fan, then it's not really helping you as much as it could. But the ridgeline vents, and then you also have on the underhang of a home, like where the gutters are and everything, you have what's called a soffit vent. And the theory was that with this being at the bottom and this being at the top, that it would create enough airflow to ventilate the attic properly. Well, I'm not sure which engineers were involved in that, but it doesn't get anywhere close. And this is how we know that it doesn't work well, that when you go to a home at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're going up in that attic, say, 9:45 to 10 o'clock, and you shoot the temperature in that attic, and it's 75 degrees outside and the attic is 110. That's a pretty good indicator that these attics are not cooling off. That's what creates the mold and the mildew problem in the state of Florida. And it's a huge problem. People that have asthma, people that have breathing conditions like COPD, You know, that is a serious, serious issue for them. And the black stuff here that's what mold looks like. And if you go into a lot of homes, it'd be pretty easy to spot when there's a mold problem. Now, we're not in the mold remediation business. We're not trying to do anything other than to let them know that they need proper ventilation in order to be able to keep this problem from recurring over and over and over again. We're also going to take a look at your windows and doors. I know you said that there'd not been much done to the windows and doors and that weather stripping was needed. We're going to take a look. Also, I've got a handy screwdriver with me. I will just take a look and see, you know, if any of your outlets happen to be insulated, because sometimes somebody that was living there before you has done that. But we do know that if the gaskets are not there, that there's a good bit of energy loss that's associated with that, just because of where they're at. Now, the thermostat. Now, what the experts say about thermostats, if they're programmed properly, is that they can save you up to 15% off the cooling bill and the heating bill. Very little heating going on here, but it can save you up to 15%. And so, but it really needs to be programmed properly, about 8 degrees above what you normally like, or 8 degrees below in the wintertime. They said on the light bulbs you had about a third of them done. The incandescent bulbs in 2012, they also made a law that incandescent light bulbs can no longer be manufactured in the United States, but they are being imported because they're still here, but we're not producing them. The CFLs, they don't last as long as the LEDs. I know a lot of stuff was said about them lasting 12 and 15 years. Not really finding that happening. And one of the big problems with the CFLs is they have mercury in them. And mercury is not a good thing for people. Mercury and people don't go together well. So the LED bulbs are the ones that are, and they've come down in price like 75% since 2009 when I first started marketing them personally. And the lights has gotten a lot better, a lot clearer. It used to have, different hues and different looks like the CFLs give you now. Not near as good a quality light. But with both of these, it's 90% light and 10% heat. And so it's a lot more efficient from that perspective. The LEDs are going to outlast them, and the LEDs don't have to be taken somewhere special to be discarded. If these go bad, you need to take them to Home Depot or Lowe's, because they do have a place where they can be properly discarded and not entered into our environment, which is, a big, big no-no. Now, your refrigerator settings, and this is a big one because a lot of people just don't have any clue as where they should be at. And this is according to the Department of Energy. Refrigerators should be set at 40 degrees and freezers should be set at 5 degrees. For every single degree below either one of these, you're spending 5% more per degree on an appliance that runs 24/7. So what we're going to do is, that's one of the things we're going to look at. We're going to shoot temperatures inside your refrigerator, inside your freezer, and we're going to set that for you. We're going to get that done. Now, when I was going over the thermostats, when I was going through the interview, one of the questions that we want to ask them is that when they're setting the thermostat at 74 degrees, we'll say they set 78, which is where most people say it, but really doesn't matter. We'll say, now, Graham, is that where your body is comfortable at 74 degrees, or is that where your wallet is comfortable, or some kind of a combination in between?
Mostly my body.
Your body's comfortable there at 74? Okay. In many cases, you'll be in a home where they're setting the thermostat to 78, 80, 82 degrees. They're not doing that because they came from the Mojave Desert. They're usually doing that because they're afraid of what the power bill is going to look like if they turn it down.
So pay attention to what they have they're setting at when you're in there?
Yeah, so say they're at 78 degrees. And you say, is that where your body's comfortable? Is that where your wallet is comfortable, or somewhere in between? And they're usually going to say, well, that's where my wallet is comfortable. And you say, well, if energy were free, where would you have it set at? Now, we're not telling people to, drop their temperature 6 or 8 degrees, because that's going to affect the dynamics in the home. You know, if they're gonna get the savings, they need to be doing about the same thing that they've been doing. But the advantage to like cooling your attic off is not gonna be near as hot in the house anymore. It's gonna be like growing a bunch of 300-year-old oak trees like we see in Charleston over the home and shading the house. Really like a shade cloth. You know, it's like stepping out of the sun and into the shade. You know how much different that feels when you're in full sun. You get in the shade and go, wow. Well, that's what the radiant barrier does up in the attic. But it is important questions, you know, to ask at that time. You know, is that, and same thing with the power bill, the 175. Does that sound a little high, a little low, or is that about right? And we'd say the same thing to Lena. And we'd even sometimes ask, you know, like I did make mention, you know, is it because she pays the power bill? And you say, no, it's because we're on, you know, direct billing. But many times, and this is why we want to have all parties there at all times, is because sometimes the man will know one thing about what's happening in the house and the woman will know something else. And so, but we're gonna, you know, deal with that, you know, act like it's just another day at the office. We're not there to judge anybody. We're there to help them regardless of their, you know, personal choices. So just remember that where your wallet is comfortable, where your body is comfortable, and if energy were free, where would you have it set at? Because when you're asking those questions, what you're finding out is that they're sacrificing their personal comfort to save money. Now, on this page here, which I'll give you one to take home, but for obvious reasons, I'm not going to give it to you now because you'll be reading instead of listening. And so this one is the form that we use to do the inspection. And the first part when we're doing the inspection is called the pass-fail. Now we do know that it's $175 is the average power bill. It's the only information we have now. The other two categories up top are monthly waste, which are going to establish, and replacement costs. Now these prices are Department of Energy suggested prices. These are like a retail price. And I'm not going to go into the prices yet. We're going to go into the inspection. So the first place it's going to have us go to is to the air conditioning thermostat. And the reason for that is so that we can turn it down if the AC is not on, because we are wanting to get a good, you know, temperature out of the vents, because when we go do our inspection, we're going to take this sheet with us too, because this is where the vent tests are on here. And you don't have to do 10 of them, but you know, you need to do, you know, 4 or 5, you know, pretty ones that are pretty easily accessible. And if you can, it's good to get to the end of the trunk line, get to the one that's, and you ask them, well, which room is the hottest room in your house? You got a hot room too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And where's it located?
It's in the farthest away from the AC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a complete indicator that the heat in the attic is heating up the aluminum ductwork in a 150-degree area. I mean, what were those engineers taking when they came up with that idea? And we're also going to get an attic temperature. Both of those are going to be reported onto this form. And then, so we're going out to do the inspection. We get to the thermostat, and we see that it is programmable, but it is not properly programmed in order to save yourself the maximum amount of money. You only have it going up 4 degrees, and so we're going to have to fail you there. Now, everybody wants to pass the test, right? Everybody wants to qualify. And so in the beginning, I had a little problem with, you know, the strong language of I'm going to have to fail you. But I learned that if you don't hit them right between the eyes with it, they're not going to get it. They're not going to understand it. And if they don't understand it, they can love you. They're still not going to purchase. But they got to understand our conversation. Now, the outlet covers, you told me they're not insulated. I pulled one off, and it takes a really tiny screwdriver to do that. I'm sure you've dealt with them in the past. But it's good to have one of those with you. And what I recommend to people, and I'll look you in the eye here, is go to Home Depot and Lowe's and purchase some of these outlet covers. And when you're in the home, the ones that are easily accessible, if you just take a second after your inspection and they've sat down, you say, wait a second, I want to take care of something for you. So they're back seated. You go to the ones that are kind of like within their view and easy for you to get to, and you go ahead and the ones that are on outside walls only, not inside walls, you go ahead and pop the covers off, and your bag will be filled with all kind of different ones, and you just put the one in there and then screw it back on. You do that for those, and you say, well, how many more of these do you have? And then you leave them the ones where they can replace the rest. That's gonna cost you probably 50 cents to $1 to do, but what it's gonna earn you is unbelievable, because you just did something for nothing. Not only did you tell them what the problem was, you solved it for them. And that's a real easy fix, but even though I told you that, are you planning on going out buying outlet covers?
Actually, I was considering it.
Good.
Right.
Good, because it does work. But most people are procrastinators.
Sure.
And even though we tell it to people, after 2 hours of conversation, it's gonna be a little, all kind of jumbled up in there, and they're not gonna be remembering a lot of it. That's why it's so important for them to make a decision while we're there. When they see your smile, they see that you're really there for them, you're being friendly, you're asking them, well, how does Missouri end up in Florida? And then you told the story, then I told a little bit about myself, and that's called a conversation. And it's very important to build that rapport.
You get a little personal with them. It
Yeah,
helps.
we figure about 70%, 60 to 70% of the reason they buy from you is just because they like you. So the outlet covers, I'm actually gonna pass you on. And why would I do that? Because I fixed it. Because I solved it for you.
Now that only goes for exterior outlets?
Exterior walls only, yeah. Because inside the
Amazing.
house, there's not a lot of heat transfer from inside the house.
Okay.
Because it's only for sound deadening if you do it, inside the home.
Okay.
Yeah, because the outside wall is heating up to 100 degrees,
That makes
not
sense.
an inside wall. If an inside wall is heating up to 100 degrees,
Yeah, we got a problem.
you got a problem. Your light bulbs, you said you had 1/3 of those done, and so that's gonna be a fail, but that's gonna be a 1/3 fail. So you're not totally out there, but it does affect things. Now, your weather stripping, and there's a number of different forms of weather stripping you can get for doors and windows. On the ones for doors, you've got the stick-on stuff that, maybe will last a year if you're lucky. And then it's gonna start, deteriorating right away because of the door closing and opening and the heat and cool on the inside, hot on the outside. Those dynamics affect things. And then you got, a couple of them that are, plastic, and then you have one that is made of brass, and it has a little hinge on it and spring loaded. When you close the door with the last one I said, you can kind of feel it. When you open it, you have to kind of pull it apart. That way you know that you're really saving money. That one's a little bit more money, but it's actually gonna get the job done and you're not gonna have to do it over. So if it's on the honey-do list to do that, do it with something that's good quality. Now, on your refrigerator, I noticed that your refrigerator's at 49 degrees. Or you might be wondering why your milk is, not lasting as long. That could have a little something to do with it. I've seen refrigerators as much as 54 degrees, and they definitely got a milk problem. And many people just don't realize it. Sometimes those little things that you turn, that you gotta be real careful with them because, one little turn can be 3 or 4 or 5 degrees. So what we do when we're setting those is we'll go back and make sure that we didn't overdo it. And the freezer was -5 instead of 5 degrees, so 10 degrees. And so, this is something that's running 24/7. Frozen is frozen. 5 degrees is cold enough. -5 is really gonna just cause freezer burn. The other thing is just gonna cause energy loss. And so I'm gonna adjust these for you. I'm gonna pass you here too. Now, gonna go up the stairway into the attic, so gonna check the temperature around now. What we use, we don't provide these, but you can get them for $25 to $35. If you order it off of Amazon, it'll be there when you get home, and it's probably gonna be cheaper. But these are what's called infrared heat thermometers. And so you basically just aim this thing, and it tells me it's 69.9 degrees on that wall, and 69.4 degrees on this wall. So now, going up into the attic, first thing that you do once you pull that pull down, you check around the pull down. And just normally what'll happen is if you're hitting around it, you're gonna see a little bit warmer temperature right next to it than would be away from it. And that just shows that the heat is entering into the home from that area. And then you pull it down, and you wanna go up the stairs pretty quickly, because just as soon as you open it up, the heat's gonna start pouring into the home, and the temperature up there is gonna change pretty dramatically. So you wanna shoot up there, and you wanna get the hottest spot you find, and then the coolest spot you find. So I just found 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but this time of day, in attics right now, if somebody calls and does the TO, I'll ask them what the temperature is in the attic. But I'd bet it's 120 degrees in attics right now. In the summertime, it'll be 150. The highest I've personally seen is 173. You take a picture of your phone, of this, to show them, well, this is the temperature I just shot up in your attic. And also take pictures of the floor. You got the floor joist. You want to take pictures of that, and from the entrance, and depending on how hot it is, you don't want to stand up there and come down, soaking wet with sweat. But if you can, and the temperature is moderate enough, you want to say, well, I don't know how high your insulation was before, but I'm taking a picture of it right now, and I'm looking at floor joists. So you already told them, if you can see the floor joist, you have less than 5 inches of insulation. And they're saying, I had this much insulation there 20 years ago. And yeah, you did 20 years ago, but that's not what you have today. And to take a picture of it and show them it's below the floor joist. And then say, what I also noticed is that you don't have any of the radiant barrier on your roof rafters. Now, the radiant barrier was created by NASA to reflect heat out, to protect the astronauts, and then on the dark side of the moon to also reflect heat in to keep them alive. And so NASA created the product. It was considered top secret technology up until, into the mid '80s. And so, it's really a great product. I'll tell you a little bit about that. And your attic ventilation right now looks like you're using an electric fan, to cool from your gables. And other than they're not being very efficient because it's a single stage, fan, and then those, the motors on those run extremely hot. It's the #1 cause of a fire in an attic, is a fan that is shorted out. And also you're using electricity to save electricity, and so, that doesn't make any sense. And so I'm gonna have to fail you there as well. So you gotta fail on the attic floor because you no longer have any insulation. You gotta fail on the attic rafters because you don't have the radiant barrier to stop the heat from coming in. And you're gonna get a fail on the attic ventilation because you're using an electric fan in order to cool your attic, which, is inadequate. It also doesn't pull enough air. A solar fan, and that's what we would recommend that you get, it'll move about 1,250 cubic feet of air a minute. That'd be a good thing to write down. 1,250 cubic feet of air per minute, and it's gonna actually evacuate the heat out. And the way that we know this is by going in homes in, like the following morning and checking the temperature in the attic and seeing that the temperature in the attic is the same as the outside temperature, because that's what it's gonna be. The attic will actually cool down with the solar fan evacuating any heat that does get in the attic. So the radiant barrier is gonna stop it, except for when it's installed properly. It's have to leave 8 inches close to the soffit and 8 inches close to the ridgeline vents. And the main reason for that is for air circulation. You gotta have good air circulation. It's also, it has thousands of little holes in it. If you get it up to the right light, you can see that. So it does allow missensitivity, but it's just done, and that's proper code and proper installation procedures, for that product. And there are some DIY companies out there that'll sell you radiant barrier, but if #1, you're in a 150 degree attic, #2, You could easily step off of your floor joist and step through your ceiling. And if we do it, we fix it, but if you do it, you fix it. I mean, if a company does it, they fix it. If you do it, you fix it. And most people aren't gonna really know the proper way to install it. And so it's really not a good product to do a DIY, but you know, there are companies that you can have come out here and do it for you. Now, we took a look at your hot water heater, and you know, your hot water heater has this, what we call an energy guide on it. And this energy guide is there as a guide. Now, a number of things that you'll need to look for is the year that this was done or the cost per kilowatt hour. Now, on this particular unit, on this guide that was utilized, it says $526 annually, but it's based on 8.04 cents per kilowatt hour. That's 50% of what electricity costs today in Florida. And so you take this number times 2 divided by 12, and that's how much money is being spent to heat water. What the experts say is about 30% of a power bill. It's the biggest energy waster in a home. So you have on the back of your sheet, this is what you're going to draw. So you got a hot water heater. It's got about a 1-inch area where insulation goes, and they use the pink stuff. Then you got 2 face plates like this right here. And behind these face plates are your elements. And they're each 4,500 watts. It's 4,000, it's a 4.5 kilowatts. So that's a good bit. Now, typically, most people are bringing the water into their home at 110 degrees. Once the temperature drops to 100 degrees, that the elements come right back on. And so you got a tin tank, you know, that is very light going in, very heavy coming out because of the sediment. So you got a thin tank, you got 1 inch of pink insulation, which 1 inch of pink insulation's got like a 2.7 R value. But you know, what happens when, like say if you got a pot holder, and that pot holder is wet, and you go grab a cast iron pan off of your stove, and you grab that pan with that wet pot holder, what's gonna happen?
It's gonna transfer.
I'm gonna get burnt, aren't I? Yeah, because a wet pot holder is not going to have any resistance to heat transfer. It's gonna be, like if this is your stove here, and your sink is over here, by the time you get about halfway, you're gonna wish you never picked that pan up. But the same thing happens here, is that the insulation gets soaking wet because the condensation's passing through this tin tank. I mean, it's just naturally going to do that. And so all day long, it's just, cutting on, cutting off. You could be gone for 2 weeks on vacation, cutting on, cutting off. I mean, it's absolutely crazy what it does. So it's a very inefficient device. And then we, transition from there to go right back into the book, to the energy equals money, and it's your money. But I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go a little bit into some of the psychology of what we just did. Now, when we're doing the walk around, we're making these statements. Your air conditioner is the biggest energy user in the home. Your hot water heater is the biggest energy waster in the home. And I think we pretty well proved that the electric hot water heater is in fact the biggest energy waster in a home. So bronze is going to be solar domestic hot water, SDHW, and a SAF, which is a solar attic fan. Now the way we talk about our fans when we're talking to a consumer is it's a solar photovoltaic attic ventilation system. It sounds a lot better than a solar attic fan, right? Because it really is. I mean, this thing runs on its own power. It's going to move 1,250 cubic feet of air a minute, and you don't have to do anything. It's thermostatically controlled. It's going to turn itself on, turn itself off. It's never going to cost you 1 penny to operate. So the bronze is with solar domestic water and solar attic ventilation system is going to be a 30% savings off of their power bill. The bronze with hybrid hot water, and this is gonna be a reduction of 70 to 80% of the power bill. This is going for heating water, and this is gonna be 90 to 95%. And this savings is gonna be around 25%, 20 to 25%. So that's the bronze. And then the silver is gonna be what's called our attic package. And the attic package consists of what we call our Superior Attic Shield, which is our radiant barrier product. We don't call it radiant barrier. We say Superior Attic Shield, which is our radiant barrier product. So Superior insulation, and that's blown-in insulation. Superior Attic Shield. And a solar photovoltaic attic ventilation system. We know from it taking care of the biggest energy user in the home, not the biggest energy waster. It's on a 50 amp breaker, by the way. And so this is going to be a 40% reduction in the power bill. Now, our gold package combines the two. So you got solar hot water, superior insulation, superior attic shield, and solar attic fan. So just do SDHW, RB, that's our superior attic shield, insulation, which is our superior insulation, and SAF, which is our solar photovoltaic attic ventilation system. This is going to be a 50% reduction in the power bill. Now, if we add a variable speed pool pump to any of these packages, the simplest way to do it is just add 10% to the package. Instead of taking $50 off the top, because we don't know if they're using it 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 4 hours a day. We don't know what they're doing. So it's 30%, 25% for either solar hot water or hybrid hot water and a fan. The silver package is a 40% reduction. The gold package, which is a combination of the two, is a 50% reduction. And a variable speed pool pump added to any package increases the number by 10%.
Okay, that at the RB, that's INS.
Insulation.
What was the word
Yeah,
you used?
remember, it's a combination of the silver package and the bronze. The bronze has the hot water, the silver has the insulation and radiant barrier. We're gonna call it superior blown-in insulation and superior attic shield, because those are our trade names. So we combine those two, and it's a plus 10%. Now, if you're doing just the hybrid and the fan, you'll be given the price on what you can do with the hybrid, and the fan will be minus 600. It will not be, in a package, it'll be minus 600. In all these packages, when we're doing our word of mouth numbers, the fan's given to them. Now, what's also in all of our packages is a $1,400 installation, permitting, and engineering fee. On the hybrid and the solar attic fan, the $1,400 is always going to be removed no matter what. But the fan, the hybrid will be whatever price that we've given you, or the price is given to you at the TO, plus the $600 for the, the $995 for the fan, so it's minus 600. So the fan ends up being $995 instead of $1,595. Just giving you what discounts are, during the sales process. And then we'll give you the discounts on the other things as we go, but, you know, there's some things that don't carry the same weight or the same discount as one of our packages do. But to keep it simple on the variable speed pool pump, just use an extra 10%. I would go with the 10% when you're doing a package. If you're just doing a variable speed pool pump and a hybrid and a fan, then it can be a little bit different. There's some things that you'll need to learn how to adjust to while you're out there. One thing that you can do is if you're having any kind of situation with trying to figure out what your savings should be, you can call John or myself. These numbers here need to be put into your phone because these numbers are going to be the ones. This is John Lamero, who will be doing the training tomorrow. John Rivera will come in here and visit with you. He's also, both of these are owners. And Rivera runs marketing and installation. Melissa is dispatch and finance, and I am training and TOs and head rebuilding. You know, I help getting in, you know, helping you think the right thoughts while you're out there. You know, not focusing on the bugs on the windshield, but focusing on the end result, which is a growing bank account. You know, that's why we do it. Now, we need to have goals. You know, if you're just trying to pay your bills and, you know, make a little extra money, if you don't have something really driving you, the negativity will drive you out of this business because you don't have something big that you're going after. You know, what most people end up doing within a short amount of time here, and we have great connections with CarMax. We've been buying cars from them for a long time, and we can put you on a car with a very low credit score and get you bought because we do so many there, and get you out there in some good wheels and good fuel economy. You know, upgrade in life, you know, upgrade in housing, like you said, you know, you're at that home until you can afford to get into a bigger home. Well, guess what? You can afford it. If you do what we're asking you to do, and I know you've already worked the program before, you know what it means. You know, if you humble yourself to learn this presentation and go out there and deliver it, it will literally create the sale. But you have to be patient and you have to wait on it. You know, you can't start shooting your bullets too early. And many people, at the least amount of a buying signal, people start saying something, they want to change the presentation and just focus on that product. We're not out there to sell products. We're out there to go through a process. We're out there to solve problems. And so we're not going to let them, because they say they're interested in solar photovoltaics, change our presentation one iota. We're going to keep doing the same thing as if they didn't say they were interested in anything. Because if you change your presentation to accommodate them, pretty soon they're going to have you like a bull with a ring in his nose. And they're going to be leading you around and telling you what's going on instead of you telling them what's going on. Their home becomes our office. They have a TV on, they got music going or whatever. You know, I can't tell you how many homes I've walked into, grabbed the remote control and said, "You mind if I turn that off?" while I'm turning it off. Because their home is our office. Not going to be disrespectful, but at the same time, I'm not going to compete, you know, with a TV or with music. One, I'm a little hard of hearing. Number two, it's a distraction for everybody. And people are very easily distracted. I mean, our brains work so much faster than my mouth or your mouth. So they're going to be thinking things just like you've done since I've been talking. You know, you think about something you needed to do at home or something you need to do with the car or something you need to do with something. Some kind of thoughts have entered into your brain that have nothing to do with what we're talking about. And the same thing happens with them. And in the beginning, they're kind of halfway listening to you because they don't realize what's coming. They don't realize how big of an impact we're about to make in their family. You know, with the energy crisis and all the stuff that's going on, and I believe there is, you know, somewhat of a crisis out there. But, you know, with all that just being said, we can't do something to affect what's happening up there. But what we can do is do something that's affecting their home and their household. So we may not be able to solve the energy crisis problem in the world, but we can solve it in their world. And that's what we need to focus on doing 1,000%. Is we're going to look at their home, we're going to look at what's happening in their house, And we're gonna focus 100% of our energy on helping them, not thinking about ourselves at all. We're not trying to add products on them to make more money. We're trying to add products on them to save them more money. Like I said, if they have a pool pump, automatically you need to put a variable speed pool pump in there. And it will amaze you how little you need to know about these products in order to, because they're buying you. They're trusting you. By the time you get to talking about price, you've already been in the house an hour, hour and a half. You know, they should be eating out of your hand. And you should be having fun. I mean, I just fell in love with the consumer at 23 years old when I was knocking doors selling fire alarms. I fell in love with that. And I found it the best place to do business. Because, you know, you're sitting at their kitchen table where they have their meals, they have a good time most of the time. They make their big decisions usually sitting around that table. And so as we're sitting around the table, this is a big decision that's gonna save them money for a lifetime, or they're gonna continue to waste money for a lifetime. And whenever we walk out of there and we haven't helped these people, we failed them. We could not get them to understand that they're already spending the money, and for whatever reason, they resisted us. Now, what you have to make sure you do is you can't let any of the things they're saying to you get into your head and affect your attitude about what we're doing. Like I said earlier, you gotta wake up every day, IASM, I am sold myself. You know, I'm gonna be enthusiastic out there, I'm gonna do everything that I can to solve their problem. And when you walk out of that home, you should be exhausted. You poured so much energy into it because you're giving it your all. Because if you give it your all and you do a masterful presentation in every home you're in, the numbers are gonna work in your favor. But if you look around and say, oh, there's no money here, and you just go through the motions, the law of averages is not going to work for you because you're picking and choosing who you actually put the energy into. You put the energy into everybody. And because you'll get into the habit of not giving it 100%. And that's the reason a lot of us don't reach the goals that we have, is because we didn't give it 100%. Because how can you sell something that you don't even believe in yourself? You know, that's a con man. And we're not interested in con men. We're not interested in people that can sell ice to Eskimos because they don't need ice. We're interested in people that can help people that have no idea, you know, that they're wasting money that they could be investing in their own home. And we help them understand that conversation. So we're giving you the information and we're also giving you the inspiration. These are the packages. And there are some variations that we'll go through when we're doing numbers. We would present a hybrid hot water heater because if somebody has less than a $200 power bill, I mean more than a $200 power bill or more, with a solar hot water system, the numbers when you go to do the pricing, you know, it would be, the conversation would be, would you want to waste $20,000 or to invest $24,000 and take $4,000 out of your pocket over the next 10 years? It kind of makes the conversation a little hard. So we want those numbers to be the other way around. So at $200, you can safely do the gold package. At less than $200, when you get to $175, then you want to, you know, drop the solar domestic hot water and go to the hybrid. You know, that's one of the litmus tests for it. The other litmus test would be low number of people in the home. You know, where instead of where you had 20 hours you're using it, you get into some homes where it's not even 10 hours worth of hot water being used because there's only one person in the house. You know, so there are 158 hours of heat and water for nothing. Kind of like leaving your car running outside just in case you want to go for a drive. It doesn't make any sense.